Ava Miller woke up that Tuesday morning the same way she had for the past year, with the soft morning light creeping through her living room curtains and the faint aroma of coffee drifting through the air. It was quiet, peaceful, the kind of calm she'd come to appreciate since returning from her last deployment overseas. Her mornings were her time, usually spent with the news playing softly in the background. Marley, her loyal golden retriever, curled up at her feet and her thoughts slowly settling into the rhythm of the day. Beside her couch sat the wheelchair. It was part of her life now, a silent reminder of what she had been through and what she had overcome. As always, she activated the motorized ramp at the front door, the one that had taken months of red tape, paperwork, and stress to finally get approved and built. It was more than just a ramp, it was her bridge to the world. Ava had served as a staff sergeant in the U.S. Army. She had seen deserts, dust storms, danger, and had led convoys through enemy zones. But her life changed forever when her vehicle rolled over an improvised explosive device in Afghanistan. The impact crushed her spine, stole her ability to walk, and left her in a battle even harder than the one overseas, the battle of starting over. Months of hospitals, rehab centers, and therapy couldn't erase the trauma. But through grit and resilience, Ava had clawed her way back to a life she could call her own. She worked part-time at the local library, helping people discover books that sparked joy. It was a small job, but it gave her purpose. That morning, as she wheeled down the ramp to get into her car, she noticed something strange. Parked across the street was a silver SUV with a circular emblem on the windshield. She instantly recognized it, the Homeowners Association. And standing in front of it was a woman Ava barely knew, but definitely remembered, Beverly Hammond, the president of the HOA. Beverly was staring intently at Ava's house, clipboard in hand, lips pressed tightly together as if she were cataloging sins. Ava paused at the foot of the ramp. "Morning," she said, forcing a polite tone. "Good morning," Beverly replied, scribbling something on her paper. "Just inspecting some recent constructions. Hope you don't mind. As long as it doesn't get in the way of my day," Ava said firmly. "I'm headed to work." Beverly's eyes slid over to the ramp, then back to her notes. "You know," she said, "this ramp hasn't been approved through all the proper HOA channels." Ava raised an eyebrow. "It was approved by the city. I submitted everything, building permits, accessibility documentation, the whole packet." Yes, but the HOA has its own standards," Beverly said coolly. "We'll be holding a meeting soon. You might want to attend, just in case." Ava didn't respond. She wheeled herself into her modified vehicle, left Marley behind as usual, and headed to the library. But her thoughts weren't on books or cataloging. They drifted back to the explosion, to the heat of the desert, to the silence that followed the blast before she woke up in a hospital thousands of miles from the people she'd led. Her body broken, her future unknown. It had taken everything to get here, to this life, this house, this ramp. That evening, she found an envelope in her mailbox. Her name typed neatly on the front. Inside was a notice from the HOA, declaring her ramp non-compliant with the visual standards of the neighborhood. A fine was listed at the bottom. Not a small one. She felt the paper tremble slightly in her hand. The next morning, another notice. This one announcing an emergency meeting to review unauthorized external constructions. Ava felt her chest tighten. Something was happening and it wasn't good. She spent the rest of the night browsing legal sites, searching through property codes and accessibility laws. None of it was crystal clear. She messaged a couple of lawyers she knew from her veterans support group, but they didn't have immediate answers. Then, at dawn, strange sounds pulled her to the window. A truck. A crane. Workers in reflective vests. And at the center of it all, Beverly Hammond, clipboard in hand. Ava rushed to the door, threw it open, and wheeled to the top of the ramp. "What is going on?" she demanded. "By decision of the HOA," Beverly announced, "we are removing the structure that doesn't meet the community's visual standards." "You can't do this," Ava said, voice rising. "That ramp is my access to the world. It's how I get in and out of my house." "I'm sorry, but the board voted unanimously," Beverly said, signaling the workers. "We're within our rights." Ava pulled out her phone and started recording. Her hands were shaking. Her heart was racing. Within minutes, her ramp, the one she had fought for, was reduced to splinters and debris, loaded onto a truck like trash. Neighbors peeked from behind curtains, but no one came forward. Not yet. Beverly got into her car and drove off without another word. Ava sat there, on the edge of her porch, the ground below her now an impossible drop. She felt humiliated, helpless, enraged. But then a voice called out gently behind her. "Do you need help, Ava?" It was Mrs. Dunbar, who lived a few doors down. Next to her stood her son Michael, a tall man in his 40s with kind eyes. "We'll get you back inside," he said. Another neighbor crossed the street to help. Together, they carefully lifted Ava and her chair and brought her into her home. Marley barked softly, sensing her distress. That night, Ava posted the video she had recorded. Her voice cracked as she spoke directly to the camera. "My name is Ava Miller. I'm a veteran. I served in Afghanistan. I was injured in an explosion, and I use a wheelchair. Today, the HOA in my neighborhood destroyed the ramp I used to get in and out of my home." She paused, tears in her eyes. "I just want to live with dignity. That's all I want." She posted the video to Instagram, turned off her phone, and cried herself to sleep. The next morning, she was woken by Marley's frantic barking. Outside, the street was filled. Motorcycles, pickup trucks, SUVs, flags waving, decals from battalions and platoons, men and women in uniform. Some had prosthetic limbs. Others leaned on canes. They brought tools, lumber, coffee. Veterans, dozens of them, had come from every corner of the state. They had seen her video. They weren't going to let her fight alone. One of them stepped forward. Lisa Jensen, Ava's old unit partner. "We saw your post," she said. "We're here to rebuild that ramp." Ava was speechless. But the veterans weren't waiting. By midday, the sound of hammers and drills filled the air. A former combat engineer led the construction. The new ramp was even better, wider, safer, weatherproof. Neighbors began bringing out sandwiches, drinks, support. Even those who had been silent before now stepped forward, ashamed of their inaction. That night, they set up a vigil on the sidewalk. Lawn chairs, campfires, shared stories, laughter, camaraderie. No one was going to let the ramp be touched again. The next day, Lisa launched a fundraiser online. Within hours, donations poured in. People across the country sent money, comments, and messages of support. Meanwhile, the HOA sent more notices. Threats of daily fines. Legal action. But now Ava wasn't alone. Media outlets caught wind of the story. Reporters showed up. National news followed. The footage of Ava's ramp being torn down played side by side with clips of her convoy in Afghanistan. The public was outraged. More veterans arrived. Some camped out on the street. They weren't going anywhere. "If they touch that ramp again," one older vet said, "they're going to have to go through all of us." Soon, Ava received news that shook her again, but this time in a good way. A company that makes high-tech all-terrain wheelchairs had seen her story. They wanted to give her one of their top models, no strings attached, unless she'd be willing to become an ambassador for others like her. At first, Ava hesitated. She wasn't used to being in the spotlight. But Lisa reminded her, "This isn't just about you anymore." On the day of the delivery, the street was lined with flags. Veterans stood shoulder to shoulder. Cameras rolled. A truck pulled up and slowly lowered the chair, sleek, sturdy, and capable of crossing any terrain. The company rep approached. "Sergeant Miller, on behalf of everyone who believes in what you stand for, this is for you." Ava transferred into the chair and gently moved the joystick. The tracks purred to life. She rolled across the grass, up the ramp, and into her home, without effort, without fear. The crowd roared. Cheers, salutes, laughter, and tears. Beverly Hammond didn't show up that day. Word was she had stepped down. There were rumors of lawsuits. Ava didn't care. She had something better than revenge. She had a new mission. The fundraiser raised more than anyone expected. Enough to help dozens, maybe hundreds, of other disabled veterans. Ava began working with Lisa to set up a foundation, programs for female vets, accessibility initiatives, legal support, real change. At night, when the street was quiet again, Ava would sit on her ramp, Marley at her side. The wind would carry the distant hum of life. She had lost so much, but she had found even more. She had found a community, and a cause, and the reminder that sometimes the biggest battles aren't fought overseas but in your own neighborhood. And when they are, you don't have to fight alone, because your fight is mine.